Hey everyone, it's Kathy with Backyard Columbus out in my backyard again because it is a beautiful evening out here in central Ohio. And, sometimes with these episodes, I just like to see what comes to my mind, see what I can see around our yard, and try to think of what I could share with you about how to enhance your own backyard. So if you listened to any of my episodes before, if you've gotten on my website, I've shared some things about backyard chickens. We obviously have backyard chickens, and I would just like to drop a couple of notes in about backyard chickens. So now would not be the time. This is like midsummer. No one goes out and gets chickens at this time of year. So fall would be a great time to think about, would I like to have backyard chickens? And if I've not shared this before, the reason I chose to get chickens, and let me tell you, I had to convince my husband of this quite a bit. He grew up in an area where the only chickens he was familiar with was like 500 or 1,000 or whatever. So that is a lot of chickens, a lot of chicken crap, and a lot of smells, if you know what I mean. So that is not the same as 12 or less. First of all, let me say on that note, I'd never get one or two chickens. Chickens definitely like to be in a flock. Like that's a thing. So don't ever please get one chicken. I mean, there is a girl on Instagram, I will say, she found a chick actually in the middle of Manhattan, and she rescued it, and it lives with her and her dogs, and I'll assume her apartment. She has a diaper on it, and it lives like one of the dogs. So that works out just fine for her. It's Bree and Me Rooster, if you ever want to check it out. It's really pretty neat. So that rooster's living its best life. But for the average chicken, they like to be in a flock. So I personally would never even consider less than 4. And if you're going to have 4, you may as well get 6, because chickens do not lay eggs every single day. So if you're doing it for the eggs, more is better. Okay, so that's it on that point. But they're living creatures, and I've said this before, there's all kinds of fancy schmancy little chicken coops that you can have, and they are way too small. So please, if you see anything that looks like it could fit in your bathroom, please don't get that. Like, it's not enough room for chickens. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Take 6 women with really bad PMS and shove them into an elevator for 6 hours and see what happens. That's what will happen to your chickens, okay? So the most amount of room you can give them, if you're going to confine them, is best for the chickens. And overall, like, if you're in charge of these animals, the happier they are, the healthier they are, the better your eggs are going to be. Okay, and you'll get more enjoyment out of it altogether. But just a few things to consider. So my backyard neighbors were friends. They're really great. And I have 11 chickens right now, and they're all hens. We live in the suburbs, like in the city, quote unquote city. And so we are not allowed to have roosters, nor do I want to fiddle with that. But if you think that egg-laying hens are quiet, they are not. And I am sure that these hens are kind of driving my neighbors crazy. But I have to say, it's not like all day long, but definitely, just so you know this, when they're laying eggs, they need to let everybody around them know that they're laying eggs, and they're a little bit noisy, which kind of stresses me out. If you're a parent, you'll understand what I mean. So like, when you're in the grocery store line and you've put all your produce, like all of your products up on the conveyor belt already, and so you're all in, you're ready to check out, and then your little kid starts crying or pitching a fit. Like, even if it's for only 2 minutes, it feels like it's an hour, and you get really hot, and it's just like bad all the way around. Well, that is what it feels like to me when I know that my neighbors are out on their patio, like out on their deck, and my chickens start barking really loudly, like wah, 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 to let everybody in the neighborhood know they've laid an egg. Whew! I get really hot really quickly, and so I've taken to getting a super soaker. And if you didn't know this either, chickens are really smart. So they have a very good memory. And so all I have to do is grab that super soaker, and these chickens, as soon as they see it, they're like, okay, I'll be quiet. And then they just pipe down. Or I have to literally like, bam, bam, hit them with a super soaker. Listen, not at point blank range. I'm not abusive, but just to squirt them like with a little water pistol, I'll say, just to say, hey, you got to pipe down. We're in the suburbs, and my neighbors are trying to enjoy their deck time. So that's one thing. Chickens are not quiet. Egg-laying hens are not quiet. Again, not all day, every day, but there's a certain point quite a few times throughout the day where they need to just let everybody know they're here. And so that's number one. Number two, it's always great, like I said, if you provide them with the most amount of room. And this, again, is confined chickens. So I will let my chickens out in portable fencing during the summer because we have very landscaped beds, and I don't want them to destroy things because chickens like to dig like dogs, and they will just flick your mulch out all over the place. But I have one chicken, if you did not know this either, chickens can fly, not far and not high, but they can fly up into a tree to get away from predators. Like in the wild, they fly up into trees and they roost in trees at night. So if you do not clip their flight wings, which I've never done, that kind of freaks me out, to be honest with you, they can fly over the portable fencing and then they get out and destroy your landscaping anyway. So that's one thing. They probably could fly over the fence, so I wouldn't let them out all day in portable fencing without some supervision, or you might be down a chicken or two, especially if your neighbor has a dog, because like the book by Patricia Foreman called City Chicks says, everybody loves a chicken dinner. Okay, so that's a thing. I've been fortunate that no one has ever gotten to our chickens, so that's good. But providing them with ample amount of space is always good. And, I will say the last thing, because this is supposed to be just like a super short little clip, they are less work than you think they are if you've done your homework, and they're going to be overwhelming to you if you have not done any homework at all. So if you've ever wondered about getting backyard chickens, then I would encourage you to take this fall to just research some things about them. Backyardchickens.com is a great resource. But overall, the easiest and most comprehensive read is Patricia Foreman's book, City Chicks. It will tell you everything you need to know about getting backyard chickens. And I've never regretted getting chickens any day of the week. I mean, every day I have to feed them. I mean, my husband does help, but I'm just telling you, even if it were all by myself, I've never regretted coming out in the heat, the snow, the wind, the rain, having to feed them, fill their water, check on them, or whatever. I've never regretted it. They make me happy. They're actually, if you had nothing better to do, they're very entertaining. They do goofy things. They actually have personalities. And if you took the time, apparently they can learn their names. I don't know how 12 chickens do that, but allegedly that's the word on the street. But I did this. I think I bypassed the original point I was going to make. I did this for a sustainability experiment, I'll say, but I was long-term committed. I want to know where my food comes from, knowing that my eggs came from my happy, well-fed, healthily fed, if that's a word, healthily fed, nutritiously fed, I'll say, chickens is of comfort to me because, and this brings up another point. So one of my clients one day, she was very proud of herself, and rightly so. She was buying quote-unquote cage-free eggs. Well, if I've not made this point before, I'm sorry if I'm repeating this, but cage-free can mean they're literally not in a battery cage, which basically means 6 to 8 chickens shoved into a very small cage. They cannot move their wings. They cannot stay up. This is the epitome of factory farming. And they are warehoused in airplane hangar looking places. And they're just, I'll say, shelf after shelf or floor after floor of caged chickens, okay? They never see the light of day. They don't move. They just lay eggs, and then they live and die a very pathetic life. And I will add, in case you're starting to roll your eyes, I'm not a vegetarian, so I'm not coming at it from that point. I am coming at it from a what's humane point. So me personally, I don't care what you eat, honestly. Whatever mammal you can think of other than humans, because that starts to get creepy, I don't care what you eat as long as it lived and died humanely, okay? So that's my stance on chickens and every other meat that I eat. So, but cage-free does not mean what in your mind you're thinking they're out on a farm, their sun is shining, and they're running around the field. That is not what cage-free typically is. Cage-free means, in general, think of a crowded New York City subway at rush hour. That's cage-free. They're not in a cage. but they're crowded and like they can't even move. So while that's probably better than I'm making this up, the 89 cents a dozen white eggs, that's battery caged eggs, factory farmed, like inhumane condition eggs. So, and I will say this, if you are barely scraping by monetarily, I'm not judging you, okay? If you have a couple of bucks and you've been told this, that's where I tend to get pretty judgy, because you can do better. If you're eating 52 million eggs a week, then maybe it's a bit of a financial strain. Otherwise, like most people, if you don't eat that many eggs a week, even organic and cage-free, so they're just adding the cage-free, but organic has standards and they can't be in that crowded conditions. They have to have a decent amount of sunlight, outdoor access, all that kind of stuff. I'd have to look that up. I would encourage you to Google what exactly organic eggs mean, because again, this is one of those episodes where I'm just feeling it in my backyard. I'm sharing what comes to my brain. So please look that up. But they have to have outdoor access, okay? So, oh, oops. See, I do this sometimes. I lose my point. Anyway, organic is always better because they just have better conditions for how they live. So that's the best. But, cage-free, they just add that in to be more clear. But that's the best you can. That's the best you're going to get, other than your farmer down the street, and you see how they're raising their chickens. But the certified organic, USDA organic, then you can be assured that you are buying what you think you're buying and that they had the best chance possible for the most humane living conditions, okay? And even at that, that is maximum of what I've seen in Ohio of $5 a dozen, okay? You can get something with a fancier package, and maybe it was the farm down the street that is selling to Whole Foods, and it might start clocking in at $6 or $7 a dozen. But otherwise, you can literally stay in about the $5 range here in Ohio and be assured that you are not getting inhumanely raised chickens, okay? So anyway, that's why I started raising my own chickens, so that I know how my chickens were raised. I know they're spoiled. I know they're quote unquote happy. And so that's why I wanted to do it. So everybody has their own reasons, but just know that you want to be a good neighbor. You want to provide a good amount of space, and that do your research, and you will be far happier and far less stressed. So that is it about apparently more than one idea about chickens. I gave you a bunch, but that's it for today. If you have any other questions, I will answer them to the best of my ability. I always thank you for listening, and please share my podcast because I want to share the joy with others. Thank you.